So when did I first realize I needed coaching? So I came back. I went on vacation and came back from vacation. I was totally chilled out, and I stepped into the office, and I had this in my head that I can make 5 days. I could just ease myself back into work. You read it everywhere online. Ease yourself back in. Give yourself the space. I stepped back in, and literally within 1 second of going online, 1 second, wham, everything opened up for me. And so my team leader, Vladdy, she was, in a real state of like, I need something from you, John. We've got to do this. So I was like, well, they have to wait. They just got to wait. So but she was so stressed. I immediately had to let go of all of that 2,000, 3,000 emails that we have to get through and everything. And I was just sucked straight back into that, sort of hypercharged IT road that we all have to step onto. And I remember just switching off the cam for a little bit and just screaming to myself, literally screaming in frustration. And I knew at that moment that I had to do something. I realized that I was so stressed in like 1 second of being back from my holiday. And here I was, and more stressed than when I went away. So I decided, in IT, we get a lot of, support, employee assistant programs. And I reached out and I got like my first coach, and it was nice. And I didn't know whether it's psychologist, coach. I just knew that I talked with someone. So I sat down, started talking, just blurted out everything inside of me, and didn't really feel I was getting anywhere. So like we do in IT, got all macho. Yeah, I can do this, I can endure. Went back, threw myself back into it, realized that this was not solving nothing. So I thought, well, let's try again. So then I met the next coach, and this is where I learned about coaching chemistry. I met Mike, and Mike was me, just as a coach. And he was ex-IT guy, so he understood, sort of what I was going through. He was also a black belt in karate, so I like sport and everything. So we just clicked. So we went through a process. He got me to really get in contact myself. And as we worked through it, I really thought, yeah, coaching is actually very similar to me, or it seems like and feels like things that I do within my teams. You do mentoring, you do some consulting or whatever. But as we went through the process, I realized that I was kind of getting stronger in myself. And what I found, what came out, I connected into what is the real, we talk about who's really inside of you in coaching. And I found really something that I'd lost from years before, and that was my old unionism. So here I am, this uber capitalistic director in IT. And yeah, inside of me, I've got this union guy that was always, from my early days, always like stand up for what's right and wrong, and all of that stuff. And that came to the surface. I got to a point that I realized I needed a break. I need to get out, just a break from IT. So I said it to my company, I'm going to take the break. And so I did that. It was out 4 months, but this feeling inside of me just got stronger about right and wrong and standing up for my team. I went back and, let's just say that the version of John that went back was not the version that they wanted in IT to drive, sort of the tempo of work. So after some, me actually saying, well, I value this now, and I really feel this, and I'm going to stand behind what I feel is right and wrong, we came to an agreement to have a settlement, that I would leave my company, which I'll be really honest, really fair. So you like about IT, but IT is really fair when that point comes. Yeah. So then it was like, what next? What am I going to do? So here I am back with Mike, my coach. And he's like, well, he said, if there's one thing I know, he said, I think you're the most natural coach in the world. Or he said, our sessions are long since stopped where I help you. He said, you actually help me in these sessions. So then he said to me, have you ever thought about career in coaching? And I was like, no, not really. I hadn't really thought about anything then. So then he was the trigger. And he was the one that said to me, like, okay, CTI. He said, get ready for a journey that's going to be completely different to anything else. And boy, was it. I never forget. And I first sat down, the first face-to-face group, and it was just after COVID. So we'd all been locked down, we'd all been working, sat down. And this was the complete opposite to sitting in this business environment of like, this was like open, this was human, this was connecting. And that was the start of the journey. And it was just the most, the way I've kind of described it many times is it's the best cross-industry program I have ever engaged in. If someone had said to me, you've got to go across industry to meet others, to understand different cultures, different business, different dynamics, and your way you're going to do it is coaching, I wouldn't have, I don't think so. But boy, has it been that to meet so many people. And I think that for me, leading me into coaching and then experiencing coaching, that just unlocked something in me. So I realized that I came from like East End, like with like no qualification, like zero. And I ended up like this director in IT. And I was like, how the hell did that ever happen? How did I get from there to there? It kind of didn't, but then I realized that, we talk about allies a lot in coaching, yeah, about different parts of your psyche. And I realized that my strongest ally was what I call Burning Man. And I never realized it. It was always like from this crazy young guy, East End, to this director, what was it that triggered? And I realized what it was. It was when dedication and enthusiasm came together for me. It gave me this feeling of this like burning sensation, like this little pilot light that was always on, but just, and off I go, and so when I had that dedication and that enthusiasm, nothing got in my way. So that triggered, really got me thinking. I was like, okay, what else have I got in me? And I realized, like, because it's not like a straight line that you're going up. I've been like this, like going, and I realized I had another side of me, which I called Rising Man. And it was, you can knock me down, but I know one thing, I'm going to get back up, and it's just in me. You knock me down, okay, it's going to bloody hurt, but I know I will get back up. And it keeps coming to me all the time. So I kind of discovered this, sort of this ally. Then we're back, my kind of leader within is what my union, as I called it, my unionism. And then I really started thinking around the value pieces, that we coach. So for me, I realized that dedication, variation, honesty were kind of my three core ones. And I started viewing things through that lens. So I started thinking, okay, if it's dedication, what does that mean? Well, if it's business, it would mean that the planning, be disciplined, look out 2 weeks, sort of check what was your priority list. If you had the like uber urgents or the somewhat urgents, list it. And I always kind of looked at it as like, because I hated Mondays, yeah. So Mondays were always firefights. So the only way I could control Mondays was that view. So I looked at it and thought, okay, if something bad's coming at you, but it's like if someone's going to punch you on the nose, if you can see it, it doesn't quite hurt as much as when someone punches you on the nose, you don't see it, yeah. So I started, looking through the lens of values, of discipline, variation, honesty. But then that kind of went further for me. I kind of found that responsibility kicked in, care kicked in. And then finally, around that coaching wrap for me, was I started realizing doing and completion. Doing kind of like if I start something, like we all kind of start. So I could score myself out of that, like that classic 1 to 10. But then the completion was the key one. I could score myself 9. I've done a lot, but if I completed, and then when I started looking at it that way, it started resonating with me. So I started developing this whole feeling around coaching that ended up with my coaching shoes theme, my company. And that came about by, because I'm here now, I'm like in Dagenham where we're filming this. I'm in my mum's bedroom, so sorry for anything you can see. But next door is a young lad, and he's had nothing ever go right from his life. I won't go into the ins and outs, it's not right. But I remember when I was here, and he said, what do you do? And I said, I do this, that. And I said, I coach now. And he said to me, you try stepping into my shoes and look at my life. And this light bulb went on, like perception. I'm like, I'm here and my world's like all of that. And he's like there and his world is like that. So that's where I started the idea of, okay, coaching shoes. It's about, step into your coaching shoes and let's go to work. Let's start talking. Let's communicate. So that did really lead me to where I really am now. I like sport, yeah. So go back to the 80s. I'm 62 now, yeah. So go back to the 80s. I'm young then, and I remember the London Marathon starting out. But in the 80s, none of us ever did anything like sport. We were all a bit overweight. We'd all go down the pub. We'd all do all unhealthy things. The marathons came along, changed everything. So we all started living with a more healthier way of life. Now, when you look at youngsters today, the physical element, go to the gym, sort of run, swim, it's in there, it's in their fabric. So with coaching shoes, I'm kind of like thinking, well, mental fitness, that's that big turning. We're at that point now. We're really at this point where when we talk about today's modern work, we're talking about what happened, to me, that stress level. The only way we're going to manage and manage them demands of modern day work life is when we start to think about our mental routines. So my big thing now is making, sort of mentally fit, like the new cool. I'm trying to think, how can I promote that to make that cool for not just youngsters, but all generations, that they think, you know what, I get up Monday and I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to reframe, or I'm going to be grateful, or I'm just going to put my mind into that place that allows my mind to work the best way, like my body will. So I'm going to go for a run for 30 minutes. I'm going to sit down and do 30 minutes just to get my mind in the right place. So that's kind of where I am with my coaching, at the moment, my philosophy around it. And the biggest thing I've seen is clients now want to be preventive, not want to be reactive. They don't want to cross their threshold of burnout. They know that the industry, just modern day life, is going to push them up to that boundary. So they start looking at it in preventive terms. So I get a lot of clients will come to me and they will say, okay, this is where I am. This is my problem. This is what I want to go to. So the classic sign is, I want to change my career, or I want to change my position in this company. It's like, okay, and let's really get into that, because is that really what's happening? What's really going on behind the scenes of you? So the biggest thing I'm seeing is that change. Clients wanting to be preventive rather than reactive, but also the commitment. When they commit, once they understand what coaching is, and I think that's a really, really important point. There is, whether we like it or not, still a stigma around the word mental, and mental and coaching go very close together. Yeah. So it's like, how do you get over that stigma? How do you get them to actually go, you know what, it's actually cool now for me to talk about what my mental routine is. So that's now what I'm starting to see differently in, clients, is that once they start working, once they realize what coaching is and how it can help them and how they can associate it in the same perspective as like a physical training and the benefits of what they need to do. So it's like, well, I'm not just going to talk with you and have a like we're just going to have a discussion. I'm going to give you what I call BizFit tools. Now there's nothing, sort of fancy or clever, but it's creating the tools that they can take away and become more self-standing. If I've done my job right, after probably, and normally it's about 18 sessions, they're going to be in a place where they are more resilient. They can go back into themselves and they can understand that voice, what we all call inner critic, saboteur, whatever, there's all kinds of names. But they realize what's going on, that they can see the triggers, they can calm the triggers, they can bring in the tools that can help them to then start to manage the daily event. Yeah. So I would frame it out as that I always say to them, it's not the event that's going to happen to you that's going to shape the outcome. It's your response to the event that is going to shape the outcome. Big difference. Yeah. Once you realize that you've got choice, then you've got possibilities, then we can work. We can step into different shoes and we can see different perspectives. At the end of the process, what I'm seeing, they're quite prepared now to stand up and say, here's my story. because they want to share it. That's a biggie. I would try to contact senior leaders in my tech world who I know. And I just say, can we just have a conversation, 15 minutes? I'm doing like a survey around what you need for your teams and for yourself in coaching. And it is amazing what they come up with. You hear imposter syndrome a lot of the time. That so shows up so much. Like, really big leaders, you think like they've really got it nailed. No, they got imposter syndrome. I got one leader who actually I said, what's your strategy for dealing with stress? He said, my one game of tennis. He said, my one game of tennis on a Wednesday, if I can't play that game of tennis, he said, I can't deal with the stress. I said, well, what's your backup plan if you get injured? I said, it's not very good. But he was very honest. He was like, he'd built this resilience around himself and he could just survive from Monday to Friday, long as he had his one game of tennis. And I was always, well, that's not going to last. So yeah, it's very interesting when you really dig in to the senior execs, what they actually open up and share with you. I've always wanted to give back a little bit and do things. So the first give back I wanted to do was taking young graduates and bridge them over into work, because it's bloody hard for them. When they come out of university, they haven't got work experience. They haven't got a network. It's really, really hard. So I started doing, sort of volunteer coaching, which I kind of nailed it with. Someone said to me, why do you do that? And I said, you know what? I said, I always loved Tom Jones when he was in his 70s and his 80s. And I remember seeing an interview and they're saying, Tom, why do you sing with the youngsters? And he said, because it gives me great energy. And he said, and they love it. And I remember thinking, I want to be Tom Jones' coaching world. So I started doing my little thing and I've helped, no, not a huge amount, but a few young people. And I've got them into work. I've got them, sort of preparing the best there. So doing that, that made me feel really good. But then I thought my biggie, and it's almost like this is a mission that it's almost like a calling, and I'm still not there because like Coaching Shoes, I kept it as a corporate entity, but special needs care coaching, parent care coaching. So, yeah, I've been dealing with like Jake since 2, he's 24 now with severe autism. So he's not like, Rain Man, he's not asparagus, high performer. He's right at the very opposite to that. He can't talk, he's 24-hour care. And that journey, there's been times that it has taken me to my limits of what I was possible of. But all the way through it, it's a case of what, for his sake, we have to find the solutions, and which we've done. My wife has done amazing things with this Villa Pit pioneering school she's set up, and she's made for Jake. But along that journey, I always thought, I so want to talk with someone who I can trust. I so need to talk with someone who I can trust. And I never did. I just bottled it up. And I think that fed in big time into when I exploded in my company, because everything just was inside of me. So now I've just started doing this where I coach special need parents, and you got to be so careful when you go into that space. There's a lot of people say, I can coach here, I can coach there. I know it from inside my heart what is happening to them, and it's a massive process of self-management when you're looking at someone turning up and you see that they're at the absolute limits of what they can deal with, and then to see that you can. One lady I work with, I said, what do what do we want to work on? She said, I just want to be stable. That's all, John. I just want to be stable. Just after doing a set of sessions and seeing her stable and being able then to work with the mediator who basically cares for her son's sort of school and budgets, that is just the most rewarding thing ever. Knowing that may not be huge difference, she's still going to have lots of challenges, but first time she's opened up and she's trusted. So that's a huge area for me that coaching has given me. It's given me the confidence to be that person to say, if you want to talk about special needs, and if you're a parent and you're dealing with this, and I get it, I know it, but the difference is, I've got this coach framework but it's what is inside of me is the most important thing that I'm going to share with you, because you're going to trust me. And if we've got trust, I can then start to help you clear out your head, get some space. We then get stability, and then we can make movement, we can make motion. So yeah, that's what coaching has given to me. Years ago when I was young, I was like, I used to be a ski teacher, and you had to do then all these certifications, and they took years to get. And I remember when I passed my first one, my grade 3, my basic, I remember this tingle, this feeling. And I remember being in this shower in this French ski resort after I was told the result, and my life's going to change. I know it's going to change. This kid from Dagenham, who's like in his early 20s, like, I know that I'm going to go somewhere, but I don't know where. That was exactly the same feeling with CPCC. I'm like, I don't know where it's going to lead. I know it's not going to be instant. I know I'm going to have to work to build up, my coaching, training, my consultancy, whatever. But now this has given me that bridge. This has given me that opportunity, that credibility. They're your badge of honor. So that's what you've got. You can now talk with everyone, but also your journey just starts. My 30 years of tech business background, that's huge. Yeah. My 24 years of special needs care, that's huge. And the old union guy, that, right and wrong and trying to help people, that's huge. So that's kind of what makes me, I think, kind of unique in my, my coaching practice. Power of coaching is to be able to make a conscious shift in something. Yeah, you can make a conscious positive change in something. Yeah. So for me, it's being able to make a shift in something that is going to give a good outcome for that person that you're working with. So for me, Coactive is the biggest cross-border industry program you can ever engage with. It will take you to places that you never knew existed.